I guess my question upon this is, how much of that do you think is coming to a play here? This idea that your appearance, the fact that you don't look like a presidential candidate. I mean, if Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or John McCain had walked into that building wearing the same sign, I doubt very seriously they would have been treated the same way you have. Do you think that perhaps your appearance and the fact that some people have said you look like a homeless person or that you do not look like a regular presidential candidate, do you think that factors into the equation here somewhere?
Well, it probably did, which raises the question even more so. If my appearance is what threw them off, then it's even more evidence against them that they are discriminating against homeless or people who look homeless or people with long hair or beards or who don't wear suits and ties. If that is in fact true, it's probably reason enough for them to not want this to go to court because they know they're wrong.
And perhaps I'm sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that their whole way of reacting and everything else, the police report doesn't mention anything other than in the narration as to why they were called up. It doesn't list anything there. The court didn't set a trial and all that sort of stuff. So the fact of their actions speak louder than anything. They knew they were wrong. And in knowing that, they should have dropped the charges and had the whole thing wiped off, but they didn't.
Now, so to be clear about it, you were this charge is hanging about you, but you don't have a trial date yet?
No, and they don't have to set one for 3 or 4 years. Actually, according to the paperwork I got, and it shows it on the website, they don't have to set a trial date infinitely, which goes completely against the Constitution, against a speedy trial. They're supposed to have an arraignment on that thing within a couple of days to plead guilty or innocent.
Right.
And then they're supposed to set a trial date at that arraignment for the trial, and they haven't done that. If you review that first paragraph on the website, I hope I made it clear enough.
Yes.
That basically, you read the first line or so up till a period after the APO, which is assaulting a police officer, and it sounds like the whole thing's over with.
Yeah.
But if you read the sentence after that, in that first paragraph, it says that the prosecuting attorney may proceed with this case at a later date. No date, no time limit or anything. So 4 years down the road, they can pull this thing up and say, well, let's prosecute this one. The guy's president, let's bring it up and that sort of stuff. Just like they did with the guy who was accused of soliciting sex in the airport bathroom. He thought it was all done, and he's a politician for crying out loud. He probably wrote the dang law and that sort of stuff. He didn't understand. But later on, when he was running for re-election and that sort of stuff, they bring up the whole incident that happened months earlier or years earlier, or whatever the case was, and they decided to discredit him. That is the action of our present political system. They have all this stuff hanging over people's heads so that if you get in a position where you can challenge their authority and you have credibility, then they bring this out to discredit you.
That's interesting.
And I saw that come. Go ahead.
I said, that's interesting. I mean, if it had been me or some regular person in there doing the same thing, there would likely have been the regular arraignment. There would likely have been the guilty or no guilty plea. There would likely have been a date set for sentencing, whether it be 1 or 2 months or a year down the road. The sentencing would have gone forward. It would have been whatever. It would have been wrapped up and finished. But because you are a presidential candidate, even if you don't have much chance of actually winning or not, just because you are a presidential candidate, perhaps you are getting this differential treatment. So in case you do make some inroads, in the off chance you do become president, they have this little ace in the hole, I suppose you'd call it, that they can use against you at their will.
Yeah. I mean, they never have any idea as to how an election might turn out. And what puzzles me is the fact that there wasn't any media coverage on this. And it was an hour and a half almost from the time they first asked me to leave and the police showed up. Usually, in any situation like that, you've at least got cameras on the situation from various media crews, but none of those were even there. and supposedly all this stuff went out over the police radio frequency.
So there's been no media coverage of your arrest.
Absolutely none that I know of.
Except for me.
Except for you at this point. There were a few people that took pictures and everything else because there were almost 200 witnesses to the event. So a few people took photographs, but I haven't seen or heard any of that on the news.
What does it tell you that a Canadian reporter is the one to kind of break the story of the arrest of an independent presidential candidate and the strange way in which it's been handled? What does that tell you that I'm the only one that seems to be interested in the story?
Well, it kind of has a depressing image of the U.S. media that advertise themselves as news. And I just got a thing, there's somebody falsely advertising themselves as a news agency, and I sent them information about my campaign, and they said, I want you to take our website or our email address off of your mailing address. And I said, I'm sorry, I was under the mistaken impression that when it says that you were a news agency, that you actually were interested in news. And they got belligerent and emailed me back, says, we don't have to explain our position to you. So, yeah, and that's unfortunately the attitude of most of the media in the United States. If they are not bought and paid for by the corrupted politics in the United States, they are certainly acting like they are, which is unfortunate.
Now, you've said that you don't feel that your potential employers, the people of the United States, have been doing much in the way to assist you or support you. And I'm sure now that there's this arrest looming over your head, if people find out about it, there may be less support for your campaign. Would it not make more sense to save your money, save yourself the stress, and just quit now?
No, it doesn't. Because if you understand 1776 and the whole atmosphere roughly that was going on about that time, the same people that were uprising against the British Crown, so to speak, were also accused of various things that they weren't guilty of. Some of them were actually found guilty and hanged. Had the British won, yes, then of course they would have been guilty and that sort of stuff. But I have taken my oath to protect the United States, which is the people of the United States, and not the government, not the politicians, to protect them against enemies, both foreign and domestic. I took that oath back in '79 when I enlisted in the Marines. And to me, although I don't consider myself still a Marine, I still consider that oath very much in effect, because at the end of the Declaration it says, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So come November 4th, I figure the people will have spoken, but if I drop out of the race before now, or before then I have done myself and those who do support my campaign, I have done everybody a disservice. So I have to stick in this till the end of it. And I'm hoping that the fact of the arrest, for the people who do a little bit of research and at least review the police documents and the court documents, come to understand exactly what is going on, and that they will support my campaign. But if they don't know about it, then it's kind of tough to do. So, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where it doesn't look terribly promising, but if you've seen the video or one of the last 2 or 3 videos, it shows exactly how a person in my position could start from the race today and end up with enough support at the end of 30 days to win the election. But it relies so heavily on communication between the people for that to work. And that's what I'm working on right now, just trying to let as many people know exactly what's going on, and then it's basically up to them.